So let's find out more from the British Titanic Society. And the press secretary, Martin Blythe Sweetingham, joins us now. Martin, good evening to you and welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us. This is indeed a somber occasion. The Society, we understand, knows the pilot of the Titan, Paul-Henri Nargeolet. He is joined by the founder of the company. Himself, we understand, a seasoned underwater traveler. In fact, a man who holds a record for reaching the deepest parts of the ocean, the Mariana Trench. Hamish Harding, how hopeful do you remain tonight for a successful return to the surface?
I think, first and foremost, the British Titanic Society extend their thoughts and prayers to those on board, as you mentioned, and obviously to the families of those people on board as well. Obviously, the search and rescue operation is very, very difficult when you're dealing with trying to find a submersible at approximately 3,800 meters deep in the Atlantic Ocean, maybe even more. But obviously, as time goes on, people become more and more concerned. We're expecting an update from the US Coast Guard and the rescue agencies any moment now. So hopefully we will have further update in due course.
And we'll be watching the wires as well to see what drops as to the latest. But as you say, a complex mission, and it involves multiple agencies. What would go into mapping out a rescue of this nature?
I think there's lots of speculation already online about how the rescue operation has been coordinated, but obviously we know right now that the government agencies are on board supporting hopefully a successful recovery of the submersible. It's incredibly difficult when you're dealing with trying to find essentially a needle in a haystack. We're not entirely sure where the submersible is right now. It would take approximately an hour and a half from the sea surface down to the Titanic wreckage. But obviously, the search area is quite vast, and the site itself of the Titanic wreckage is incredibly dark. And obviously, we're dealing with immense pressure as well. The submersible itself is fitted with a specialist piece of equipment which basically tells the pilot the differing levels of pressure. So if the pilot at any point thought that the pressure was too great, they can abort mission and return to the surface. But we're expecting at the Titanic wreckage at any one time that the pressure on the submersible could be 3.5 tons per square inch. So it's an incredibly dangerous site to visit. Obviously, the Titan has successfully completed voyages to the wreckage in the past, both for tourism and for scientific exploration. So it's an incredibly difficult mission, and obviously our thoughts and prayers are with those on board and their families.
So what could have gone wrong? I mean, you know, to a novice, as you say, this is, you know, it's an established, I mean, obviously it's not for everyone. It's prohibitively expensive if you want to go and just visit. I don't imagine that there are lines and queues of people going. So, you know, for that reason, it might not go that often. But it is experienced. You have seasoned people on board. This has been done before. What in the scope of things that could have gone wrong? I mean, you know, what are some of the things that could have gone wrong here?
I think it's unwise to speculate at this point in time about what exactly has gone wrong. But obviously, ahead of any mission to the Titanic voyage and any mission exploring the sea at these depths, there will have been safety briefings, there will have been full risk assessments. Naturally, when you're dealing with these depths and these pressures, there are a whole host of risks which, you know, we have to consider. And just like you would when you're boarding a plane, each of those explorers on board the vessel would have been given the full list of risks. And obviously we know that the pressure is a big issue here. We obviously have issues potentially with oxygen supply. We reckon that there is 48 to 60 hours of oxygen left on board if the submersible remains intact. There's a huge range of potential problems the submersible could have encountered, but there will obviously be a full investigation which will be led, I'm sure, by government agencies in the coming weeks, months, and even further.
Really is a race against time, Martin. And when you describe, you know, just the water pressure itself, 3.5 tons per square meter, I think it is, that you said. I mean, that is massive. So it has to be gradual. And again, you know, you're dealing with a very finite supply of oxygen. It's in as you say, an area that is akin to looking for a needle in a haystack. It is very dark, as well. I did read, though, that they, interestingly, because the Titanic remains such a vessel of such interest, there is a considerable amount of activity relative to what's happening in that space of, different explorers and divers and so on. Is it possible to build a network of resource, to let everyone know that there is, a search underway? I mean, for those of us who are unversed, how does that happen, this type of coordination?
Obviously, any rescue mission on this scale requires incredibly detailed planning, and we don't have the time to plan a rescue of this nature. Essentially, government agencies and specialist marine exploration companies have to come together quickly and commit their resources. At the end of the day, there are lives at stake here, and everyone will be doing everything they can to try and ensure there is a successful rescue. But naturally, as time progresses, I'm sure everybody will realize that the dangers for those on board will continue to get greater and greater.
Thank you very much just for sharing some of that detail. As you say, we're expecting a briefing on those who are involved in this mission to give us an update. Out of respect, we haven't talked too much about the passengers because we understand that there haven't been comms established with them to be able to find out what's happening moment to moment. Limited air supply in the vessel itself. There are experienced crew on board the vessel, and there are still hopes for a successful outcome. But as you heard, a complex operation in a very, very inhibiting and prohibitive area of the ocean.